Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the 26th tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we'll be talking about the group by clause. And the group by clause, as the name suggests, is used for grouping identical data into groups, right? And it's used with the select query, and if you've got your where clause in the select query, then you must make sure that the group by follows the where clause, and if you've got order by in your query, then group by has to precede the order by. So if you've got all three, then the sequence in which you should have these clauses is you should have where first, and then group by, and then the order by clause at the end, right? And we'll understand how the group by works through examples, and it can be a little tricky to be comfortable with in the beginning, but we're going to check out really simple applications. So I'm sure that by the end of the tutorial you'll understand the group by clause perfectly. So the syntax of group by, as I mentioned, if you've got all three clauses, then the sequence, that's something that you have to be careful about. That has to be the sequence, where, and then group by, and then order by. And the first part of the query is pretty simple. You have your select keyword, and then the column list, and from, and the table name. So let's see some examples of group by in the MySQL environment now. So I've got my workbench, and for this tutorial what I have done is I have created another table, and the name that I've given to the table is tutorial, right? And it has a little bit of information about some of the tutorials that I've recorded and shared on YouTube, and not all but some. And I've recorded tutorials on 3 subjects, and the subjects are shell programming and C and SQL. So let me show you the structure of the table, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So the name of the tutorial, as the name of the table, as I said, is tutorial, and I'll execute the query to show you guys the fields that I have in the table. So ID is one field, and this field holds numbers to represent the tutorials, and then I've got the title field that holds the title or the name of the tutorial, and then the subject, that is the subject to which the tutorial belongs. So if it's a C tutorial, then the subject would be C. If it's a shell programming tutorial, then the subject would be shell programming. And duration, this is a decimal field, and this is the duration in minutes. So if it's 4.5, it means 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And then the upload date, or the it's a date field, and I have chosen 3 values for this field. So all SQL tutorials have the same upload date, and all C tutorials have the same upload date, and all shell programming tutorials have the same upload date. So I'll show you guys the rows that I have in the table. I've also inserted some data in it, and select star from tutorial would be the query that I would use to see the data. So this is all the information that I have put in the table. So there are some tutorials that belong to SQL, and some tutorials that belong to C, and some tutorials that belong to shell scripting. And I've also populated the duration and upload date fields. And another thing that you must pay attention to is that the upload date for all SQL tutorials is the same, and that is 8th August 2013. The upload date for all C tutorials is the same, that's 4th April 2013, and the upload date for all shell scripting tutorials is also the same, which is 1st January 2013, right? And there's nothing else to note in this table. And what I'm going to try to do now is I'm going to try to find out the number of tutorials I have for each subject, right? And just think about it. I want to find out the number of tutorials I have in each subject. So I would have to first create groups of subjects, right? So I would put all the SQL tutorials in one group, and I would put all the C tutorials in one group, and all the shell scripting tutorials in one group. And these groups would not be created within the table, but when you pull out information from the table, when you see the results in the results set, they can be arranged into groups at that time, and you can see the arrangement, the group arrangement in the results set. So we're going to find out the number of tutorials that we have in each group. So we'll have to use the count function, and the count function is an aggregate function, and I haven't discussed it yet, but I thought that I would discuss it when we discuss all the other aggregate functions, but we'll use it now, and it's really simple. There's hardly anything in it to understand. So I'll type in select first, and then the subject field, because we want to see the subject names as well, and then I'll type in the keyword count, and within parentheses I'll type in asterisk, right? So this is going to return the number of records that the result set is going to get to us. And on the next line I'll type in the keyword from, and then the name of the table, which is tutorial. And on the next line I'll type in group by, and then I'll type in the field on which I want the groups to be created, and that in this case would be subject, and I'll put in a semicolon at the end. And when I execute this query, I see that I have uploaded 8 tutorials on C and 4 tutorials on shell scripting and 5 tutorials on SQL. Well, in reality I have uploaded a lot more, but these are all the rows that I have in the table at the moment. So the count star function, I hope you guys are not confused about it. It just helps us calculate the number of records that are present in each group, right? So first the select star query was executed, then the groups were clubbed together, and the tutorials were clubbed together into groups, and then the number of rows that were put together in each group were returned through the count star function. And next, if I want to find out the duration of each playlist, right? So the way I'm going to do that is, again, I'm going to group by subject, but this time I'm going to use another aggregate function, not the count star function, but the sum function, right? And I'll sum on the duration field, right? And when I execute this query, I see that the duration of the playlist on C is 48.17, and the duration of the playlist on shell scripting is 16.88, and the duration of the playlist on SQL is 25.55. And again, I didn't do anything fancy. It's pretty simple. I've just used this function, and we haven't seen this in this course, and we'll be having tutorials on aggregate functions, and I'll talk about count and some more aggregate functions in that tutorial. But for the time being, just know that this adds numbers together. So the groups again were created on the subject field, and the values that are present for each record in the duration field, those values were added for each group, right? And then the values were displayed in the result set. So I hope the group by clause is clear to you guys, and in case you have doubts, you can send me messages, or you can comment on the video, and I'll try to reply. And thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I'll see you in the next one, in which we'll discuss something interesting. And please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon.